Kimmel getting potentially canned than you are Charlie Kirk getting assassinated, you may want to take a step back and you may want to just reflect, look in the mirror, and realize you've got it all backwards. 6:05, good morning. It is great to be here on a rainy Thursday across Kansas City on KCMO Talk Radio. So Jimmy Kimmel may be on his way out. He has been put on indefinite leave by ABC. And the outrage that I saw last night from people on cable news was unbelievable. The people who didn't really show any emotion after Charlie Kirk got assassinated last week were suddenly, oh my gosh, to the moon over Jimmy Kimmel being suspended indefinitely. You just can't make this stuff up. I mean, it was unbelievable. Look at Chuck Schumer.
Your reaction to this?
It is outrageous. It's a page right out of Xi's playbook. This is just despicable, disgusting, and against democratic values.
That was Chuck Schumer yesterday. That guy had more emotion, more passion, more care over Jimmy Kimmel getting put on an indefinite suspension than any of the tragedy that was covered last week. Heck, 9/11 in his own backyard. He didn't show that kind of passion. Now, why is Jimmy Kimmel on leave? Let's get to the why around this. Well, first, let me say, Jimmy Kimmel is somebody that I never found to be all that funny. Jimmy Kimmel was hyper political as well. But there is a part of me that wonders why on the timing of Jimmy Kimmel getting put on indefinite leave. And I'll explain the why behind what may be going on here coming up in a couple of minutes. Because honestly, why would ABC just suddenly put its foot down right now? I mean, Kimmel's kind of been doing this same old shtick for years. Why now? And it may have nothing to do with ABC. So we'll get to that here on KCMO. But what got Jimmy Kimmel in hot water is when he said this in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination last week.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing.
Wait. Now, that is just factually inaccurate. Jimmy Kimmel says there, as he phrases it, MAGA is doing everything to try to figure out how to portray this shooter as anyone but one of them. First off, it didn't make any sense at the time. We didn't have a lot of the information when Kimmel said it. It was factually inaccurate. It was completely irresponsible. It was all of those things from Jimmy Kimmel. But he's been saying irresponsible things that really aren't fact-based for a long time. Like, that's just, I believe that's kind of what Jimmy Kimmel's been for a while. So why now? What's the reason behind the now with Jimmy Kimmel getting put on this indefinite leave by ABC? Well, it could very well be that the companies, the TV companies that complained, one being Nexstar, they actually own Fox 4 here in Kansas City. They are not just an ABC affiliate, but they are obviously involved with local television news. They do carry Jimmy Kimmel and ABC in some of their other markets, and they're the ones who may have worked their way up the food chain and said enough's enough, along with Sinclair. And the backstory here as well, to take you a little bit behind the scenes and go a little bit deeper on this, is that Nexstar announced in the last few weeks that they are acquiring a rival broadcast company, Tegna, in a $6.2 billion deal. This has to be approved by the Tegna shareholders and the FCC. There's a belief that to get in the good graces of the FCC, Nexstar basically said, we want Kimmel off the air, and this was going to be viewed favorably by Donald Trump and the FCC because there is some politics at play. I'm not suggesting that's what's happening here. I'm just telling you that there are those that believe this is about more than just Jimmy Kimmel. And this is about trying to basically get this move done that appeases this current FCC and the bosses, and then allow Nexstar to take over one of their rivals and get the FCC approval on Tegna. I don't know if that's what's going on, but I'm telling you, this is deeper than just ABC waking up and being like, boy, Kimmel's really a douchebag. Okay? This is who Jimmy Kimmel is. Trust me, this is it. It's who the guy is. Same guy for years. Am I shocked he made that really crass comment that's totally inaccurate last week? No, I'm not. I don't think anybody should be. Like, that's just Jimmy Kimmel being Jimmy Kimmel. If you asked me which late night guy was going to be a bigger jerk in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, I would have said flip a coin, Colbert or Kimmel, one or the other. One will try to outdo the other on douchiness. That's just what's going to happen here. So the why now is the more intriguing part of the story. Does Jimmy Kimmel being off the air bring me some kind of satisfaction? I will admit that it does, but I'm not convinced that it should. I would love a late night show that just appeals to all of us. I would love a late night show that makes fun of Republicans and Democrats and independents and is an equal opportunity offender. That's when comedy is at its absolute best. It's unfortunately not the world we live in anymore. But I do think somebody who did it and did it well could just absolutely crush it in late night. I really think that is still a platform that could draw a major audience for people who, at the end of a long day, in what has been a rough news cycle for several years now, just want some laughs. But it's up to the networks to find that person and figure out if that can still be a winning formula. I believe it can be. But I don't think ABC just woke up and said, that thing from Kimmel was awfully offensive. Wait, this is who Jimmy Kimmel is? I can't believe it. We are shocked.
Talk about a bombshell.
Nobody is. Nobody is, and nobody should be. This feels like it is deeper than that. And there's a lot more at play. And maybe this was just their convenient excuse. Mike is in KCMO. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, I disagree with you. I think it's all about the money. They saw what heat they got when they got rid of Colbert because he was losing money. And ABC wanted to get rid of Kimmel because that show was losing money.
How much money is that show losing?
I think from what I heard, it was actually more costly than the Colbert show, from what they were saying on the TV yesterday. Because people aren't watching it, they can't sell advertisers. All these, like Sinclair and all these other people, they need people to watch their TV shows.
I have not seen that the Kimmel show is losing money like Colbert is. I'll look it up, but I have not seen that anywhere. I think the show stinks and should lose money. I just haven't seen that report anywhere.
Yeah, they're dinosaurs. They're in 2017 they were cutting edge. Now they're dinosaurs. They haven't improved their material. They're one-note show. People aren't watching them. I know the ratings are bad, and these other companies want somebody to watch their shows.
So you're saying this is just convenient excuse for ABC to finally do what they've wanted to do for a long time?
Right, and then they can always say, well, this is ideological, he was insensitive, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Everybody will think they're all virtuous and things like that. But it's all about the Benjamins.
Well, listen, that wouldn't shock me. I just want to see those numbers. We know that Colbert was losing tens of millions of dollars a year because the show had 200 staff members. Imagine being a show that's lacking that much humor and having 200 people to put it together or whatever. Was it 100 or 200? It was an astronomical number of people. I couldn't believe it. Damon in Kansas City. Hey, Damon, you're on KCMO. What's up, man?
Hey, I was watching Benny Johnson, the YouTuber, doing an interview with the FCC chair, and he said he had a really strong case against Disney and Jimmy Kimmel and all that last night. And I think that's a huge reason that they're going and pulling the show, because they don't want to activate that trap card and have all that blow up in their face.
That's very possible. I did see some of that with Brendan Carr, who runs the FCC. And listen, I think you're right that some of this is politics at play, where Kimmel became a sacrificial lamb for Disney and ABC. That wouldn't shock me at all.
All right, thank you very much.
So
brother.
good call. And listen, but that gets back to my original point. This is not ABC suddenly being like, Kimmel's a jerk. We should not have him on the air. There's a deeper business side of this at work, John.
I'm with you 100%. There was nothing new about what happened.
No, not at all. Not for a second. We'll have more on this. The media reaction has been unbelievable. It's got a busy 4 hours ahead here on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up, what's going on the streets of Kansas City? Are things finally going to be cleaned up downtown? Let's hope. There's a new plan we'll tell you about next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Well, there is a new plan to keep Kansas City safe downtown. And no, it's not bringing in the National Guard. Wish it was, but that's not happening here. 621, good morning. It is great to have you on KCMO. So yesterday, the mayor of Kansas City, the city council, KCPD, and Copagan Brooks announced plans to move forward with installing parking gates at some of the parking lots downtown that currently don't have them. Now, this comes in the wake of 12th and Grand, where, of course, we had homicides happening on the morning of August 24th, a couple of weeks back, and that led to this conversation over who's to blame, who's in charge, and who should be responsible for crime right outside of the Power and Light District in the early morning hours. And the city was pointing the finger at the parking lot owners saying, boy, these guys who own these parking lots aren't helping out. And I'm sitting here saying, you're the city, you're running the police department, get some cops around your major entertainment districts. All right, do that. That's what needs to happen in Kansas City, and it sounds like some of both may be happening. I'm encouraged by this, but there still is that 500-pound gorilla in the room that nobody wants to address. So first off, here's what's going on. City of Kansas City and Copagan Brooks are working together to improve safety. Copagan Brooks, which owns a bunch of the parking lots, has recently implemented several new security measures this year, including increased patrols, new physical barriers, and security monitoring systems. They are improving the lighting in the parking lots. Mobile surveillance capabilities were expanded, and they will have more armed on-site security guards being deployed. On top of that, the city also announced it will be focusing on safety initiatives in the downtown area. They have expanded foot patrol on downtown streets. And the city's multidisciplinary public safety task force is collaborating with law enforcement, businesses, security guards, and more to improve safety. This was my big issue when these homicides happened in the parking lot down at 12th and Grand a few weeks ago. How does nobody see at 3 a.m. outside of a major entertainment district a big group of kids, and that's what they looked like, teenagers, maybe up to their young 20s. How did nobody see these kids walking across the street and beefing in a parking lot at 3 a.m. outside of a major entertainment district? Do you not have a single cop driving around 12th and Grand? I mean, that's primo, Power and Light, bars are emptying, and no one's there? No one sees this? No one notices anything? I couldn't believe it. And to me, that was the biggest problem here. You want to break up a bunch of kids who are about to potentially get into violence, you got to have somebody patrolling Power and Light. And I don't know how you possibly couldn't have that going on at that time of night. I don't get it. So this is the big question coming out of that homicide a couple of weeks ago, and it sounds like KCPD is now kind of admitting, yeah, we need more people down there. Well, no kidding. Okay, great, good job. But still, the overwhelming issue remains bad people being out on the streets at all hours of the night. That remains the biggest problem in Kansas City. And KCTV5 talked to some folks downtown last night about this new plan, whether or not they think it will improve safety. And take a listen to part of the package here from KCTV5.
In response, KCPD is increasing foot patrols and adding off-duty security. Copagan says they're adding more lights, cameras, and signs, as well as plans to install a gate around the lot.
Definitely glad to hear they're making strides to make it safer. I think it'll improve the community and safety as a whole.
While everyone is on board with these efforts, some say it's also an effort the people need to bring, not just the parking lot.
The people needs to be changed first. Before anything, the people has to stop.
I wish that crime and violence could go away, but there are a lot of reasons why things like this happen, and I think we all need to work together to figure out what those reasons are, and we can try to solve what we can.
There's a lot of reasons for crime to happen, and there are reasons that it can't go away. That is such a loser mentality. I think Kansas City is a great place to live. I think it can be a much better place to live. And I don't think that anybody in Kansas City should have to sit there and deal with crime and just expect it to be a way of life. That's basically the conversation that's happening right now, whether it's in Washington, D.C., or soon to be Memphis, or what's been going on with Chicago. Do you accept that violent crime has to be a way of life? Do you accept that homicides at 12th and Grand coming out of the bars on a Sunday morning has to be a way of life? I don't believe it does. Now, of course, you're not going to eliminate all crime, but I'm talking about the violent crime that this town has seen at a record pace over the last few years. I don't believe we need to live that way. And I don't think anybody talking to the local news needs to accept that as just a way that we have to live in Kansas City. It's a loser mentality. And this town is better than that. Even if some of the people in charge, even if some of the people with big microphones don't believe that to be the case, because, well, it doesn't impact them. They've got their cozy, cushy neighborhoods, and they don't deal with these crime issues, and they got to appear sufficiently woke. Therefore, they're not going to come out and say what needs to be said, which is that we need more cops. We're down 400. We need DAs that are going to throw the book at these criminals, and we need judges who are also going to do the important work of not letting these people back out. Those three things get dramatically improved, you solve crime. If the parking lot owner wants to have more lights up, great. Does that just push crime to another part of town? I guess we'll see. Coming up, I wanted to get your feedback on how I handled something yesterday with somebody in my life. And then what John Anthony got in the mail was a shocker. All coming up next.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
All right, I want to ask you guys how I handled this yesterday, and then I'm going to get to this John Anthony mail piece he got that if you are a resident in one of our area counties, you do not want to miss out on. So I mow my own lawn, just to be very clear. But I'm having my lawn aerated coming up here in a couple of days, and I didn't want to have to. I didn't really have the time the last few days. It's just a busy time of year. I was on the road, of course, a couple of weeks ago, and just a lot going on with the kids and soccer and everything else, you know. If you're going to be a peewee soccer coach for first and second grade girls, you got to be on your A game. There's no time to mow the lawn these days, all right? So I hired this neighborhood kid. He's done the lawn for me when I've been on vacation. Otherwise, I'll just mow it myself. And I said, hey, I need you to take this thing down to 1.5, 2 inches. I got an aeration coming up. I need you to bag it for me and, you know, do the whole deal, right? He says, yeah, sure, no problem. Come by on Wednesday. So he comes by yesterday, and he's got his ride-on mower, but nothing's getting bagged. There's just clippings all over the place. So I just, I come outside, and we're actually about to head out the door to soccer, and I said, hey, you able to bag this? Knowing full well he's not bagging it. And he says, well, there was a mouse in my such and such equipment, and I can't bag it. I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do? He's like, well, I'm going to go over it a bunch of times, and I'm just going to keep kind of cutting the clippings and the whole thing, and, it'll be fine.
A little mulching.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay. I was like, well, we talked about this. I told you when I hired you, I wanted you to bag it. I reminded you in a text message earlier today, please bag it. Now you're telling me you can't. I didn't say that, but I was like, all right, whatever. It is what it is. So I get home from having Claire at soccer practice, and I go to the backyard, and it's a mess. There's clippings all up against the entire fence. Nothing was edged.
AC unit looked good.
It looked awful. It was not well done at all. And he asked me for another $10 or something, $15 to bag it, and now he wasn't even bagging it. And he goes, well, I'm going over it multiple times. I'm like, really? Now he's probably 18 years old. I think he's a senior in high school. So I get home, I see the backyard, and I'm like annoyed. So I call him up. I leave him a voicemail. I'm not mad on the voicemail, but I said, listen, dude, come on. There's clippings all over the place here. You didn't do any edging. It's all up against the fence line. It looks terrible. And then I go inside. I tell Kate, and she's like, all right, well, just take a breath. Remember, young guy, the whole thing. So she was right. So what I did, I didn't hear back from him. He never called me back. I sent him a text a couple hours later after thinking about it some more. And I said, you know what? He's 18 years old. Let me be the nice guy and use this as a learning experience for him. I hired an 18-year-old kid, so I should have understood that when you hire someone who's 18 years old to do a job, you get in part what you pay for, right? Now, I'm trying to help out a neighborhood kid, and I can still be disappointed that he really didn't do the job I asked. But I said, you know what? I will use this as a learning experience, hopefully for him, that he can take with him going forward.
It seems reasonable. You had a previous history with the guy mowing your lawn. So
he had done it a couple of times. So I said to him, I said, hi, I'm not going to give you his name. I said, hey, Bob, for lack of a better name. I know you're a hardworking guy, and I'll take care of you. Huh? Hi, Bob. I know you're a hardworking guy, and I'll take care of you. But I was disappointed in all the clippings up against the fence in the back with no edging done anywhere either. If you weren't going to be able to bag it, I understand equipment breaks. But that's what I originally hired you to do, as we discussed. You just need to let me know. Even this afternoon, I sent you a reminder about please bagging it, and you told me sounds good. If nothing else, I'd like this to be a learning lesson for you. I firmly believe that as you grow your business, you do need to make sure you're clear with your customers on some of these things and not be evasive. Thanks. I'll pay you here shortly. And then I paid him. He writes back, I understand. I'm sorry for not communicating. I can come by tomorrow and do the edging if you like. I said, no, don't worry about it. Thanks for the offer. So, listen, he lost a customer. I won't hire him again. But hopefully for him, as he grows this business, if this is something he wants to do, it can be a learning lesson. And now I'm not going to sit here and lose any sleep or get worked up at all over, an extra 10 or 15 bucks. Not going to do it. Not going to think twice about it. I'm going to basically do it myself today and move on with my day. And hopefully I paid it forward and help the young man who maybe wants to grow this business and do something with this business. And you know what? He's better off learning it with me than some jerk who would have chewed him out for it. That's my approach here, John. So did I do the right thing?
You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. No, I think you did the right thing, especially when you cut off your expectation beyond that.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't know that it'll go anywhere. I think there maybe was a basic misunderstanding of what aeration is and what was to happen in order to remove those things. It wasn't just a normal lawn cutting where you want it to look nice.
Well, that's what I told him.
I think that somehow I missed that.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I hope he learned a lesson. And my attitude is I'm not going to think about it anymore. I mean, gosh, if there's anything we've learned over the last week, there are far more important things in life to spend time and energy on. And I'm not going to let this be one of them. And if I help the young guy grow his business and learn something about business and how you treat customers, I'm happy to do it. I'll take that. I'll take that one, John.
You're leading by example because so many people get out there and go, "Hey, yeah, blah 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 rah rah,"
Yes.
You just rail at the kid and don't come around here again.
On the text line, Pete, I think you actually may have done the wrong thing. Give him another chance instead of dumping him. Well, here's the thing. I won't need someone to mow my lawn now till I go on vacation next summer or something.
Right.
So I'm not like dumping him. I only used him 3 times the entire summer when I just couldn't do it. So I mow my own lawn, so it's not like I'm dumping him. But maybe I'll give him another shot next summer. I'll see how I feel. But I don't really have a need for it anyway in the short term.
He'll be at college or something away. You're gonna find a new guy anyway.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Another boomer. Another Bob.
Maybe.
How much you paying?
Find a John.
Find a John.
Yeah. I'm doing mine right now.
Hey, maybe Mark's daughter. Brielle's a hard worker, man. She's reffing at 13. Get her a lawnmower, Mark. She'll make some money.
She's mowed the front yard a couple times.
Oh, look at you. Has she?
Yeah.
She
mower?
wanted
to try it. She doesn't like it, but she wanted to try it.
Gas mower or electric?
Electric.
Oh, okay. All right.
Pretty easy.
All right. On the text line, Pete, buy Claire a mower and bagger for Christmas. We actually do have a fake little toddler lawnmower that obviously Claire's too big for, and so is Chloe. But now the 18-month-old Charlotte, she's been trotting around with the little lawnmower in the backyard. So I'm like, hey, you girls are getting good.
Lasted 3 daughters, huh?
Oh, man. So you know what? I'm fine with it. I'll fix it up today. It's going to be A-okay, and we'll just we'll move on. On the text line, what else do we have here? Pete, you should have accepted the offer when he agreed to come back the next day and finish the job. Here's the thing. I didn't do that because he's going to edge it, but he can't bag it. So I've got to then go out there with the mower, and I've got to bag it myself anyway. So that's why I told him not to come back. I thought
the whole
about
point,
it.
You're doing aeration. You want to clear
Exactly.
the base of the lawn from thatch even.
I've got to clear it.
So you don't want to add anymore.
He's playing football. He's not going to come till 6 at night.
Yeah.
I need it done. So I understand. I thought about that just out of principle, have him come back, but I didn't really want to do that.
No.
So I think I got my point across. I hope, he learned a lesson from it. And listen, after the past week, we all got to realize there's much bigger things in life to worry about.
Touché.
So many of you are supporting me on the text line. Some of you are actually not. And I'm good with that. I'm used to it, man. I don't know what else to say. I'm used to it. All right. John Anthony got something in the mail here I want to share with you. So, of course, we got the recall election of Frank White coming up on September the 30th. And as a Jackson County resident, John got a little mailer here telling him about this special election. And it gives you some dates here, and no excuse absentee voting began 2 days ago. And, of course, Election Day is on September 30th. But it's very confusing because John also gets this flyer about a November 4th special election.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you 3 dates around that. So this feels to me, John, maybe I'm being pessimistic here, but this feels to me like the Jackson County Election Board trying to confuse people on all these dates with all these upcoming elections and being like, well, there's this thing on September 30th, but hey, don't forget about November 4th.
Yeah, I opened my election board envelope, and what do you know? It's a value pack full of coupons. Yes. There's another piece of paper in there, too, logistics, but it, rather than being specifically about what September 30th is about, there's all kinds of other things that make it look like, if you miss the 30th, come on, November 4th, too.
Yes.
Now, sure, they're being frugal. They're covering their bases, but, I think they burn through money. I'm surprised it's not on heavy stock with the 3-color print, the whole placard thing.
I would agree
Sometimes
with
I
you
get
there.
those.
I can't help but think that this is in part not just the Jackson County Election Board trying to save money, but potentially create a little confusion with like September 30th special recall election and then November 4th special election. With no real reference to what exactly you'll be voting on both of these days, the implication is that these two dates have something to do with each other, and they don't. They have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, November 4th was scheduled anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
Regular
always
election.
there.
Yeah.
September 30th is just the recall of Frank White.
I got one. My wife got one. I assume people who live in Jackson County have that same thing, and I thought, this will be about Frank White. And lo and behold, look, November 4th.
Yes. So this is tricky. Just know, of course, November 4th has nothing to do with recalling Frank White. That election is on September 30th. November 4th is your standard election where you'll have different things to vote on. But the Frank White recall election is only on September 30th. So this is a little trickery, I believe, from the Jackson County Election Board, no matter what they say. The 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour we'll get to next on KCMO.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
We are rolling till 7 o'clock on KCMO, and it is that time of the morning.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
How about this rain, baby? Let's go. Oh, my goodness. It felt good running in here this morning. That's right. I was fired up. You know, we have been in an abnormally dry stretch. The drought monitor map has us in a moderate drought for parts of the Kansas City metro. So this steady rain that we are getting this morning and we'll get throughout the day is welcomed, I know, by many of us, especially not just those of you that are having to run the sprinklers like crazy, but, of course, those in the ag community really needing this rain. So it also will bring a cool-off for much of Kansas City. Instead of being high near 90, we're looking at highs in the upper 70s, low 80s for the foreseeable future. And by the time we get to the middle of next week, we may have highs in the high 60s, low 70s. Yesterday, Claire said to me on the way home, she said, can I wear pants tomorrow? I said, no, it's just going to be too hot for that. Just going to have shorts or whatever. She's like, oh, man, I'm sick of this heat. I said, well, don't say that. You'll be feeling differently in February. She's like, no, I like the cold. Like, why? Because it snows. I'm like, not always. But I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now with a tired 6-year-old at 7 o'clock at night. But, we'll take the cool down. We need it, and we need the rain certainly around Kansas City.
Number 2.
Next up in our 6 at 6, last night, the President of the United States announcing that he has labeled Antifa as a terrorist organization. He will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. And he ended his post with a, thank you for your attention to this matter. Yes, sir. I am paying attention to this matter. I put it in my 6 at 6, sir. And hopefully that is good enough. And that is enough attention being paid. All right, there you go. Next up in the 6 at 6.
Number 3.
Let's go to this. We did get, as expected, the Federal Reserve interest rate cut yesterday. Fed announcing its first rate cut in 9 months. First time since December, and they signaled more cuts are likely later this year. A 1/4 point cut this time around, which matched the expectations on Wall Street. Stocks initially moved higher on the news before falling into the red across all 3 major indices yesterday. So we know the president wants to see more rate cuts. We'll talk to Steve Moore, our good friend and former President Trump economist, coming up at 8 o'clock and get his reaction to this and what it means for the economy moving forward. So Steve Moore will be here at 8:05 on KCMO.
Number 4.
Number 4 here. Let's get to this. I know KCTV5, our partner, has been hyping this one up for a long time. After more than 2 decades of darkness, the iconic KCTV5 broadcast tower will once again light up the Kansas City skyline. In partnership with the city of Kansas City, Missouri, KCTV5 will officially relight the historic tower with 96 state-of-the-art LED lights during a special illumination ceremony that is happening tonight. Some of the backstory here, towering over the city since 1955, the 1,042-foot tower has been a familiar landmark and a symbol of Kansas City's growth and innovation. At the time of its completion in 1956, it was among the tallest broadcast towers in the nation and 18 feet taller than the original height of the Eiffel Tower. So that coming back to the forefront tonight. You ready for that, John?
That thing dropped icicles off onto cars, and you had to block off the street at times. It gets a little icy, so I think they've got de-icers on it now and everything. So it's high-tech now for sure with the LEDs.
Oh, there you go. Very good.
They used to do the weather with it. They would flash the lights, and you could count how many times. I can't remember the code, but they had it all set up at one time to reveal the weather.
Oh,
yeah, if you were
look at
within
that.
sight of it.
That's pretty cool. All right.
Something different.
Well, that's happening tonight. I'm sure Mayor Lucas will be there for a little lighting ceremony.
Yep.
He wouldn't miss the opportunity, right? He wouldn't miss that chance.
Number 5.
Next up in the 6 at 6, Patrick Mahomes turned 30 yesterday. It also happened to be the opening of the Steakhouse 1587 Prime down at the Lowe's Hotel. So can you believe it? just a few years ago, this guy was breaking into the NFL. It seemed like just yesterday, that 2018 season, his first year starting, he was, I guess 23 at that point. And 7 years later, I mean, let's be honest. It's all downhill from here in the NFL at 30. Jeez.
I guess we know how much Clark's paying the guy. He started out on Whataburger, and now we've got $15.87 prime steak, right?
He's doing all right.
He's making some money.
That's why they can't figure out the offensive line or the wide receivers. Oh, my goodness. So congratulations to Patrick Mahomes, 30 years old yesterday.
Number 6.
And last but certainly not least, you may have seen this, a Spirit Airlines flight came way too close to Air Force One. And this got some national attention yesterday. A Spirit Airlines pilot was scolded for getting too close to Air Force One. Air traffic controllers were yelling at him to pay attention. They came within 8 miles of Air Force One, which is a big no-no. And this Spirit flight was taking passengers from Fort Lauderdale to Boston. And, jeez, that could have been a major disaster. But thankfully, it just resulted in a pilot getting beat up by the air traffic controllers. There you go. Coming up, how is many in the media reacting to Jimmy Kimmel getting put on indefinite leave by ABC? Well, about how you would expect, we have the audio next. Jimmy Kimmel is done for the foreseeable future. He has been put on indefinite leave by ABC. After last week, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, he said this.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
It's just gross. I mean, everything about Jimmy Kimmel's gross. But here's the thing. It's what Jimmy Kimmel and who Jimmy Kimmel is. Jimmy Kimmel saying that is not a surprise to me.
Nope.
Being the guy who comes out and is like, yep, this guy that killed Charlie Kirk, he's one of theirs. There was zero evidence of that from the moment this thing happened. And then certainly once we got some facts, it became very obvious that's not what this was. But Kimmel decided to go on the air and make this claim. So what happened is that the television affiliate companies, basically the people that own the local TV stations around the country, companies like Nexstar, they own Fox 4 here in Kansas City, but they own other ABC stations around the country, which is where Jimmy Kimmel is. And companies like Sinclair Broadcasting Group. They're the ones who came out and basically said, yeah, we're not running Kimmel. We're done with this guy. We don't want to be affiliated with him. We are preempting him for the foreseeable future. So it was a local decision by these two broadcasting companies. So ABC had no choice, right? Like ABC cannot force the ownership groups in the local markets to run Jimmy Kimmel. So this is basically these companies taking a stand. To use a radio analogy here, let's say this show was syndicated on stations all around the country. If those individual radio owners decided we don't want to run Pete anymore because of reason X, Y, or Z, well, they have the prerogative and the right to do that. They don't have to run the show. Now, they agree to a contract, theoretically, obviously. But if they get mad at something I say, well, it's up to them. They own the station. I don't. That's basically what happened here to Jimmy Kimmel. But now all his friends on cable news are outraged by this. I couldn't believe what I was seeing last night from some of these people. Take a look and listen. Well, don't take a look at Jeffrey Toobin.
He's busy.
He's busy. The old five-knuckle shuffler there, Jimmy Kimmel, Jeffrey Toobin.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the guy who got blown out of CNN because he was busted leaving his Zoom video open while he was pleasuring himself. So somehow they brought him back. But Jeffrey Toobin, Zooming with Toobin, was very upset by Jimmy Kimmel and what happened last night. Here he was on CNN.
Of all things to be offended by, I've heard a lot more offensive things said in the aftermath of this terrible, awful event than that, and it just shows they are looking for reasons to get Jimmy Kimmel, and they manufactured one out of something that is, hardly a dramatic departure from what lots of people are saying.
Well, who are lots of people? I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is not the nameless, faceless Twitter troll under the handle of, Bob 123875643. Right? I don't know many people who supposedly are supposed to have a responsible microphone and platform who have come out and made the claim that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by one of his own. It was an outright lie. And maybe these local broadcast operators, Sinclair and Nexstar, maybe this was just the reason that they wanted to look to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe this is it. Well, guess what? They've got every right to do that. Jimmy Kimmel, yes, has free speech. Let's be very clear. He has free speech. But the people that carry his show have a right to say, we don't want to carry this anymore. That is their free speech as business owners, John.
Yeah, a lie is not necessarily opinion. We can't come on here and just make up some stuff and say, oh, well, that was my opinion.
Yeah, can't do that.
No, that's a lie.
This is
Van Jones and Aaron Burnett on CNN.
This is a red line that has been crossed for our industry, for the First Amendment, for the right of people to speak. There was nothing hateful about what was said, and even hateful speech is protected. This is not acceptable. If you are going to run a media organization, it's called a news organization, you have to stand up to government bullying anywhere in the world, and certainly in the United States.
Well, the job should be to, speak truth to power, even when there are people who don't like the word truth anymore.
He lied.
Exactly.
There is no truth in what Jimmy Kimmel said. There is nothing accurate that Jimmy Kimmel said when he made this claim.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points.
How could Aaron Burnett say this is about bringing truth to power? It's not about bringing truth to power. In fact, it's the opposite. He lied. He lied about one of the most monumental stories of the generation, and he did it knowing full well what he was doing. There's nowhere for him to get this kind of information. So for Sinclair and Nexstar to make the decision that they're taking him off the air, they have every right to do that. It's what we've talked about the last couple of days. When you sit there and say, well, I've got free speech. Yes, you have free speech. You have the right to go out there and say whatever you want on the street corner. All right? You have the right to do that. But you do not have the right to go to a broadcast company and then lie. And you just don't have the right to do that. Go ahead, John.
It's interesting that their critique included the fact that they're a news organization. Yes, all the more reason that you shouldn't lie.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Thank you. Let's go to Victor in Parkville. What's up, Victor?
Hey, the thing is, what is this truth to power thing? The government had nothing to do with it. And as far as it's a free speech issue, yes, absolutely 100% correct. The network has the right to direct what kind of free speech is on its network, and they prefer not to have lies on their network. If you don't like it, any of you newscaster guys, then quit. Go sell ice cream on the corner. I don't care. If you don't like what the network's doing, you have every right to tender your resignation and depart the industry. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
That's exactly right. These networks do not owe anything to Jimmy Kimmel. Sinclair doesn't owe anything to Jimmy Kimmel. Nexstar does not owe anything to Jimmy Kimmel, and even ABC doesn't. It's literally the free market at work. It's the people that own the local stations who said, we're sick of this guy, and this is our final straw. Him lying on the air about the motivations of the assassin of Charlie Kirk. They have every right to do that. And for these people to go on cable news and try to defend Jimmy Kimmel and be more outraged by Jimmy Kimmel being suspended indefinitely than, in some cases, the Charlie Kirk assassination. Are you kidding me? And that's what you heard last night. I mean, it was all over television. Whether it's Zoomin' with Tubin, whether it's Van Jones and Aaron Burnett, I've got more. I mean, Chuck Schumer was outraged.
Your reaction to this?
It is outrageous. It's a page right out of Xi's playbook. This is just despicable, disgusting, and against democratic values.
Oh, my goodness. It's against democratic values for a company to not run a TV show that, frankly, isn't doing well, doesn't appeal to a wide swath of the audience. That right there is what you're telling me is a threat to democracy and something out of President Xi's playbook in China? Where do you guys make this stuff up? Mark in Overland Park. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Pete. Actually, a little bit in the spirit of Charlie Kirk, what's really beautiful about the situation is Jimmy Kimmel did it to himself. Nobody had to be mean to him or anything like that. He simply did it to himself. And actually, I mentioned to John, I went online last night looking for a Jimmy Kimmel T-shirt just to be able to say goodbye, Jimmy Kimmel, but just to be able to be done with his vitriol and his nastiness that he brings to the table. So anyway, if you guys want to buy up some T-shirts, I'm in.
Are there any T-shirts even out there?
There were not last night, but Don mentioned maybe they're out there today.
Well, maybe we need to start something and put the KCMO logo on it. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, my man. That's maybe a good business decision for us to make here. Coming up on KCMO, we've got Mayor Lucas at 7:30 on 95.7 FM. And then we also have to dive into this coming up. We've got the menu prices for the big hotshot steakhouse here in Kansas City. You know, it's not as insane as I thought it might be based on something we heard last week. I have the numbers for you next.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, Britt Hume, chief political analyst at Fox News, will join us to try to help us make sense of the world. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
All right, we've got some numbers here. 1587 opened up yesterday, the Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce Steakhouse down there at the Lowe's Hotel. So last week, our buddy, his name is Farzine Vasugian. He does a Chiefs podcast. He somehow got himself in to eat there at 1587. And he told us that he thought it would cost about $750 for a family of four to go. Now, I think what he meant is like 4 people, 2 couples, something like that, because the kids aren't going to be drinking and things like that, you know? So what he really meant, I think, was if 4 people went out, you, your spouse, and another couple, it'd run you about $750. So the menu's out. We finally have some prices here. And, you know, they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be, based on what Farzine was telling us last week. I'll give you a great example here. The drink prices. You can get a Noble Margarita for $18. Now, there are drinks that go up to $33. You've got salads that, you know, listen, a $21 salad for a wedge isn't cheap, but it's not overly offensive if it's supposed to be the best steakhouse and restaurant in town. You got a farm salad for $19. Expensive, don't get me wrong. But I had this envision in my head of like $30 salads and $50 appetizers. And it's really not the case. You got tuna tartare is $29. The shrimp cocktail is $27. You got the steak tartare is $37. So, you know, not cheap at all, but I just had a higher number in my head based on what he was saying. Steaks, 6-ounce filet, $59. You got the bone-in strip for $78. Even the Wagyu cuts are expensive, but I'll tell you what, I was at a steakhouse a few weeks ago, and these Wagyu prices are better than the Wagyu prices at another steakhouse in town. Now, I don't do the Wagyu thing. I'm a local guy. I'm going to help the local folks around here, Kansas and Missouri, where most of the meat, of course, is coming from, into our steakhouses. But if that's your thing, it's actually not the most expensive Wagyu meat in Kansas City that I've seen.
The Andy Reid burger I was once only $38.
Is that right? The Andy Reid? I didn't see the Andy Reid burger on there.
You get fries with that, too. I was absolutely shocked by that.
38 with fries.
Yeah.
Boy, you're robbing them blind.
I know. The big red burger.
That is a steal, man. So, you know, maybe one day I'll get over there. Mark's going to go and just try to be the cheapest guy in the room by far.
Oh, yeah.
Mark's just take care of your waiter or waitress, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Don't stiff them.
No, I won't.
All right, just
I
get
used
your
to
little
be a waiter. I know how it goes.
All right, good. Just get your little burger and then move on. All right? And don't sit there for 2 hours either, okay, Mark?
I got to try the Taylor Swift drink.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I might
not
spend
bad.
more than I want to.
That's actually not bad. The Taylor Swift drink I saw was like $18 or something.
Yeah.
So that's not terrible. But, you know, all in all, I think that Farzine was maybe a little aggressive on that price point. It really depends on how much you drink.
I think he and his brother splurged a little bit.
Clearly. So that's out there. I saw it on Fox 4, and at some point we'll all get there as a team. Then I saw this. The Atlantic had an excerpt from Kamala Harris's new book. Of course, she picked Tim Walz as her vice presidential candidate. The book is called 107 Days. And she said her first choice was not Tim Walz. Who do you think it might have been? Anyone want to venture and take a guess in there?
Gavin
Newsom? No.
Dang, that was my guess.
Oh, really? Okay, you guys were on
seemed
the same
obvious,
page.
and then I thought, well, I don't know, maybe they have a battle of egos.
My second guess is the guy from Arizona. I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah. No. Pete Buttigieg!
No!
Oh, shit.
She said Buttigieg would have been an ideal partner. He was her first choice if she was a straight white guy. But we were already asking a lot of America to accept a black woman married to a Jewish man. And part of me wanted to say, screw it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. And I think Pete also knew that, to our mutual sadness. Oh.
I'm getting pissed now.
This is brutal, man. Pete Buttigieg, John. You can't make it up.
No, I don't think I want to say what I was thinking.
Don't.
Censored.
You don't want to be Jimmy Kimmel, okay?
So if she was a straight white male, she wouldn't have chosen a female of color?
Oh, good point. Good point. What? Oh, my gosh. Mic drop. I'm done. You're done for the day, Mark. Quinton Lucas, well done, is next.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
The mayor of Kansas City, Quinton Lucas, is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. As always, we are streaming on the iHeart and KCMO Talk Radio apps. All right, Mr. Mayor, we got some good news, hopefully, downtown when it comes to solving the crime issues down there. So what's the most important part of this new plan with the parking lot owners and the city of Kansas City that you think should make people feel safe going to downtown, whether it's this weekend or any time in the near future?
I'm proud of everybody who was part of it, and good morning. I think that, one, having a greater presence of KCPD will be helpful. I appreciate the chief, Major Leslie Foreman, who does outstanding work in the Central Patrol Division, and all of the others who are involved there are making sure that we have a good presence as we have more officers who get out of break-in, i.e. right after they get out of the academy, they're on the city streets. You'll see more who are assigned to that area. The other, and we've talked about this for a number of weeks, is commitment by the private property owner. We talked about what they can do. I've talked about putting up trespassing signs, having gates, making sure that you are not a place that festers crime or allows crime to fester, rather. And so I think that that is something that will be positive. This is public-private partnership at its best. We will do all that we can from the public side to make sure that there are officers, that there's investment in security. The private side is doing that as well. And I think the long-term result will be that people will be safer in downtown Kansas City. It's a good story. It's a good deal. And I'm glad that we had conversations to get ourselves there.
So is it fair to say then that there was not enough patrol outside of places like Power and Light and maybe other entertainment districts at 2, 3 in the morning when the bars are letting out? And if that wasn't happening, is that because of a staff shortage at that time of the day on the weekends, or was it something else? Because it would seem to me that is an obvious place to have extra patrol at that time of day on the weekends.
After every incident, you can always second guess, and indeed we do review where deployment can be best allocated. That being said, I stand by Kansas City Police Department. I think they have a large city to cover. And the unnecessary thing is that sometimes you are in a zero-sum world. I will be honest with you. 6 more officers that are going to downtown in the late night hours means 6 officers that are not going to somewhere else. And even if we were fully staffed, even if we were more than fully staffed, you still make those choices. That's what you see in the military and policing, frankly, in any public service, and I would argue a private one. So I think we're looking at where are the issues, where can they be best deployed. I stand by the chief of police and the board of police commissioners and the decision they're making here.
Well, because, yeah, you're right to point that out because, there's been that conversation in this town for many years, whether it's Power and Light, the plaza. And unfortunately, there becomes a racial element to this. If you say, well, we're having a bunch of troops on the plaza or officers on the plaza and they're not somewhere else in Kansas City. So you feel comfortable, though, with how this deployment is going to take place, and you think everybody in Kansas City will be fairly adequately covered and taken care of by law enforcement as best as you can?
Yes, I do. And let me say something, right? I mean, people talk about it. I'm fortunate enough to have security often with me from the KCPD, but obviously my family is not most days. And I think it is a positive that they're doing good work in all of our neighborhoods, in residential neighborhoods, downtown, and in any number of places. So proud to work with them. I think they're doing good work. We're getting more officers by the day, and I expect us to have more progress ahead.
Mayor Lucas is here on KCMO. I saw this story in the news the other day, and it was about a daycare down there at 103rd and State Line, give or take. And they've got a homeless encampment right behind them. They got little kids coming out during fire drills who are, a stone's throw away from this homeless encampment. We know it's been an issue around Kansas City. The short-term and the long-term strategy there, what does it look like for that location, but also the rest of town with the World Cup, just several months away?
I think that we will continue to make sure. I've had occasion to have a lot of chats about this in recent weeks. We're going to enforce. Sorry, this is my 4-year-old in the background. We're going to make
Tell
sure
him we
said
hi.
Will do. He's a big Pete Mundo listener. The clear thing is going to be this: we'll enforce all the laws in Kansas City. That includes laws as it relates to encampment. Occasionally, we run into the same types of numbers issues that you face in other areas. But that being said, it is an important part of it. So every business in Kansas City, every resident in Kansas City, should you see some sort of occupation, anything like that on your private property, you can call 311. You can allow us to know at the KCPD non-emergency line 234-5000, and we will continue to respect not only private property rights but also rules in our parks and public spaces. The rule in our parks and public spaces is that you cannot live there, you cannot sleep overnight. The park closes at 10 p.m. Full stop. That's the way the rule is. Those who are in violation of that rule are subject to some penalty, at the very least being moved from that property. I think the city needs to be a little more clear in connection with that, and I stand by those who are just looking to enforce their property rights. You know, I had occasion to have a chat about this because there is a set of steps for how the city removes encampments, et cetera, and I'm not talking about that today necessarily, other than to say this. And what I responded to folks in an email was, if there's somebody who pitches a tent on my property tomorrow at my house and says, yeah, I'm living in your backyard, I'll be darned if I'm going to let them do that. And frankly, we expect, if you call at least the police non-emergency line, to say, yeah, I'm moving these people off. I don't want to use my own self-help remedies because that could lead to some level of violence. I expect there to be a response and us to make sure those things are addressed quickly. This needs to be addressed as well. It will be, and it needs to be all throughout the city. I will say this for those who say there's too long a delay. At any given time, you may have 100 to 200 of these popping around the city. That does present a challenge, but it's one that we will always try to make sure we catch up with.
And just remind people real quickly, what's the best thing to do if they're having this issue, whether it's private property or near their place of business? What's the first and best thing for them to do?
Honestly, I would call the police non-emergency line. That's 234-5000 in Kansas City. I think that we all need to make sure private property rights and, frankly, public ones are respected, and I think that would be the quickest issue. There will be different answers to how quickly folks are deployed. I know that'll be an issue, but that's where I would go. That's where I would start.
All right, I saw this in the Kansas City Star, Mr. Mayor, the South Loop project, which has not really gotten a lot of attention here, and that's the project that theoretically would go over 670, connect downtown to the crossroads and the whole thing. The headline read here, KC Park over downtown freeway to cost $100 million more than planned. What's the next step? Is it fair to say that that plan is basically on hold indefinitely because it would require some federal money and there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that that is anywhere near the top of the list right now? Should we just forget about that project, or do you still have hope that that may come to fruition here in the short term?
Look, I think the project can come to fruition in the short term. I think that there are a few other options that are being evaluated. There is enough money right now to start building it. It wouldn't build it to the full length, but I think it addresses a number of the issues downtown, allows you to retain both the strong state and federal investment. I think there's money there. The question is, do you build the Cadillac version of it? Do you do something that's a little shorter and saves tens of millions of dollars to the taxpayers? There are a lot of things going on in Kansas City, a lot of things for which we're fighting for money on. I think us making sure we're as efficient as possible on that project is something that could be helpful and important long term. And while I love additional park spaces, it's part of what makes Kansas City great. Again, we need to make sure we do more to, I think, more fairly deploy that throughout downtown. So that's an active conversation at City Council along with a few others, but I expect us to get somewhere to where we're seeing groundbreaking before at least the end of my mayoral term in 2027.
What about this 20-story building you guys approved down there on the plaza? I mean, that's obviously come with some mixed reviews, certainly changes the character down there, will be by far the largest building down in that part of Kansas City. Was this basically a situation where you guys felt like you had to do something with that lot and it just kind of is what it is? Or do you actually think this fits into the fabric of the plaza?
Fits the fabric of the plaza because the plaza is ever changing, right? People actually want to, notwithstanding fears that are sometimes expressed. People want to be downtown. People want to be on the plaza. They continue to invest. We continue to see hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of investment interest. I meet with people every day who want to be on streets like Broadway, who want to be in the Country Club Plaza. One of the things they're saying is we want to be able to build more density. And I think the story of the plaza is not just a frozen shopping center built in 1925 that is exactly the same. It is that you have a number of different uses over the years. Retail, we all thought walk-up retail was going to be the sort of thing that lasts forever. Right now, we can order a dress shirt on Amazon in 2 seconds and, make sure we don't have to go into a store. You're seeing those trends change. I think that means that more multifamily, more office is the sort of thing that you need in a healthy area. You see the same thing near you. I shouldn't say where you are, but nonetheless, in any suburban office area, all that sort of stuff. And so I think that is what we will continue to try to develop on the plaza, which is still a place that yields some of the highest commercial real estate rental prices. It's still a place that I think is photographed a ton, and still a place that is a growth area for Kansas City.
All right. I got to ask you, too, Mr. Mayor. I saw this. I'm sure you've seen it. Remington Research doing a poll, you against Mark Alford and Mark Alford against Jason Kander. And you're both, per this poll, down about 15 points in a hypothetical congressional matchup under this new map. Does that dissuade you from potentially running for Congress?
I got them right where I want them. No, it doesn't dissuade at all. I mean, the reason for these polls, and you know what, I get along with my friends at Remington Research, and
you've used them, right? You've used them.
I will say that I've had the blessing of getting to know them over the years, and so I would love to continue to know them as time goes on. What I will say is, I mean, I think that's pretty much an R&D poll, no money spent, nothing like that. The purpose of those polls is to try to tell people don't waste your time. But I've been around too long, right? You may remember, Pete, I was in a three-way tie for sixth place 2 weeks out from a mayoral primary back in 2019. Polls don't scare me. We have a way of winning when you do a lot of hard work. I certainly hope that some of these other efforts to fight against the map that seems to have all types of screw-ups now. Voters in 2 districts has constitutional issues. I hope we don't come to it. But if we do come to it, where these are the districts in which we live, I continue to expect a very strong challenge. And if it need be me or somebody else you've heard of a lot, then I know we'll evaluate it. We want to have good radio for you. And what's better than several competitive congressional races coming into 2026?
I would say make Kansas City radio great again, but we've already done that single-handedly here on KCMO. So thank you for thinking of us. All right, last thing. It's been very quiet on the Royals-Chiefs front, and that always makes me wonder if something big is about to pop. So what can you break for us here?
Oh, look, if you're reading between the lines, it's going to be very quiet, and I would recommend it's going to be very quiet at least to the end of September. I think we all understand kind of some stuff coming up in this region, and I expect perhaps there to be some more discussion as time goes on. But, I think everybody's waiting to see kind of what is our political world all around us. And I'm just one person who continues to share my thoughts of how great it would be for both teams to stay in Kansas City.
Okay, fair enough. And 2 weeks to go until this big recall election. You getting involved, or are you going to sit on the sidelines here?
I've watched a little bit of the public television thing with Nick Haynes. I think everybody who's involved in it is doing what they need to do. So I'm not sure if my voice is really additive other than encouraging people to be informed to themselves of the many issues we face over time. So no strong need to be out there right now, but we'll see if something changes along the way.
All right. Very good. Well, I do look forward to the day when that 4-year-old who's a big fan of the show, you're driving him to school as a young teenager and he's tuning into 95.7 FM and your blood is just boiling. I love that vision 10 years down the road. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, look forward to the fight. It'll be my wife on public radio, me with you guys, but we'll see who wins. So,
there you go. I like that. All right, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, that's Quinton Lucas on KCMO. I can see it right now. I mean, I was thinking when he said that, I was thinking about the audio we played late last week where Gavin Newsom's talking to the late Charlie Kirk. It's weird to say it that way. And Gavin Newsom admits his son's a huge Charlie Kirk fan. And he wanted to meet Charlie Kirk.
Young Bennett, a big Pete Mundo fan.
That's right. That's right. That sounds good. Coming up on KCMO, we got some new data. There's been a lot of conversation in the wake of Charlie's assassination about, some of his major stances, things he talked about, DEI, things of that nature. Some of the stuff I talked about last week when I was at Rockhurst on that panel. And some new data on this front is going to really, it's just, it blows up the narrative that you've been lied to about for a long time. We'll share it next.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
My man Steve Moore, he's a former economic advisor to the President of the United States. He's on Fox all the time. He's going to be here at 8:30 this morning. I had to push him back from 8 to 8:30 because he's going to do a Fox News hit actually at 8:15. So he said, can we move it to 8:30? I said, no problem, Steve. Anything for you and my friends over at Fox. But Steve put this up on X yesterday. It's new research from his group, Unleash Prosperity. New census data is out, and it's turning some narratives upside down. And it ties into something that I used 9 days ago when I sat on that stage at Rockhurst University on the DEI panel, with everybody else on the panel, for the most part, disagreeing with me. I mean, I did have one woman who was actually most in agreement with me, and it's fascinating because it was myself and a gay black woman from Montana who we were in most agreement. And then, of course, you had like the wokest of the woke white guy and then someone else who was kind of like between all of us. But that was fascinating to me. I mean, that wasn't something I had on my bingo card, but it goes to show you, you can't judge a book by its cover. That's the point. We're all individuals with individual thoughts and opinions and feelings and outlooks and upbringings, and you just can't have this one-size-fits-all approach. And one of the things that I used last week when I was on this panel is the fact that if white supremacy is real in America, how did Asian Americans crack the code? The idea of white supremacy is that somehow it's whites versus everybody else. Notably, it's whites versus blacks in America. And that's just not true. So as Steve Moore shares here with new economic data out, Asian Americans have a median household income of $122,000. That is $30,000 more than white people, the second highest earning race, followed by Hispanics at $71,000 and then blacks at $56,000. So Asian Americans make by far the most money. Whites are second. Hispanics are third, and Hispanics are closing that gap, and they're closing it relatively quickly. So it continues to blow up the entire narrative that somehow America is a white supremacist nation. It can't be if the highest earners in the country are Asian Americans. It can't be. Now, what else fits into this? Why might this be the case? I don't believe that Asians, because of their race, are just inherently smarter than anybody else. Whites, blacks, Hispanics. I mean, I don't think that's true. I've not seen any evidence of that. What I do know is another important data point. Asian Americans, as a race, have the lowest percentage of single-parent households in the country. Second to that is whites, then Hispanics, and then blacks. I don't think it's a coincidence that the racial group that has the lowest percentage of single-parent households also happens to end up being the highest earning income race in the country. I don't think that's just a coincidence. In fact, I think there's a lot of evidence and data that suggests that's why they earn the most money as a racial group. So that came out yesterday from Steve Moore, and he will be here coming up at 8:30 to talk about that. Plus, the Fed cutting interest rates by 0.25 percentage point yesterday, which is what we expected, but also coming out of that from Jerome Powell is that more rate cuts could be coming this year, which I'm not wild about. I do worry about stagflation, but Steve Moore will break all that and more down coming up on KCMO. Next, you know who's just driving me nuts right now? Somebody who claimed they were a longtime friend and at one point was a friend of Charlie Kirk, but boy, they have gone totally off the deep end, and we've got to address it next. Can we just call Candace Owens what she is, a grifting nut job? I mean, it is really disgusting what she has done in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And, I've been sitting on this for a few days, and I didn't really want to do it, but she needs to be called out. Candace Owens has been playing this game over the last few days, talking about Charlie Kirk, who, yes, at one point she was friends with and had a good relationship with, but she has gone totally off the deep end. Everything in Candace Owens' platform is about blaming the Jews. That's the name of her game. That is the moneymaker of her grift. And yesterday she posted this on her Instagram stories. She wrote here, "I've just spent hours working through this timeline, and now I'm fully of the belief that this is in fact a federal conspiracy. There is no other explanation. They are lying about Charlie Kirk's assassination." Now, maybe you could get some people there if, like, Kamala Harris was in the White House or something, which even then, you got to have the evidence to back that up. But you're telling me that the President of the United States, overseeing the DOJ, Kash Patel, the FBI director, Dan Bongino, assistant FBI director, all these people who were friends with Charlie Kirk before any of them in some ways got into politics, are now covering up a conspiracy theory that, of course, from Candace Owens' perspective, ties back to the Jews, to cover up Charlie Kirk's assassination. It is just disgusting on so many levels. But it's what she's been doing for a long time. But yesterday, to me, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because I've seen her play this game over the last few days. And it's not only wrong, it's hateful. I think it's a stain on her soul that will not easily be erased. And the fact that people are going down this rabbit hole with Candace Owens is so gross. Because here's what happens. This is like the multi-step plan that Candace Owens and some like her roll out. They throw out these wild conspiracies. They blame the Jews for everything, right? I mean, there's also this theory out there that Charlie Kirk was at a retreat with Bill Ackman, big hedge fund guy, yes, also Jewish. And he was there in August, and something happened, and that led to, this breakup between Charlie Kirk and people like Bill Ackman. There's this whole conspiracy theory around this I won't go down the rabbit hole on, but you may have seen it on social media. So Candace Owens platforms some of this stuff. And then it gets picked up by more traditional mainstream media. They then ask people about it because they want to make Candace Owens look like she is someone who has the beliefs of many conservatives, which she doesn't. But you have more mainstream media outlets that then ask people about what Candace Owens is saying. And they'll respond and they'll say she's crazy and none of this stuff is true. And then Candace gets to say on the back end, see, I told you they don't want to talk about it. See, they're afraid of me. That's why they're not telling the truth. And she can never back up any of her stuff. I mean, she's got a bunch of legal problems now with Brigitte Macron over there in France because of the wacko stuff she's saying about her. And it always ties back to Mossad, the Jews this, the Jews that. And it's so disturbing and so gross. And I want to actually play something for you. This was Charlie Kirk a couple of weeks before he was assassinated, talking about this very thing. Charlie Kirk was an ally and viewed himself as an ally of Israel. Not that they're always perfect and every country does the right thing. They don't, because no country always does the right thing. We're all flawed human beings with flawed leaders. But he was clearly a supporter of Israel, and he clearly viewed himself as a strong Christian, as a friend of the Jews. And here's what he said a couple of weeks ago when he was asked about this very thing.
Thank you for coming, Charlie. And I had a quick question about anti-Semitism online. Another questioner, they asked about Candace Owens, and I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her, but she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent. And through her, I'm kind of finding out about these other characters online, like Nick, for instance. I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time, and it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working, but now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll get debate Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus events first and foremost. But I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell. And it should not be tolerated, period. But it goes to a structural problem of an entire generation that has economic resentment. They don't own anything. They're not getting married. They're not having children. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're staring at their screens all day long. And if all of a sudden your extrapolation of all that is, well, it's the Jews' fault, that is sloppy and shallow thinking.
That was Charlie Kirk a couple of weeks back, being asked directly about Candace Owens and some of these other, online grifters who are trying to tie it all back to the Jews. And then I thought the more powerful part, that was obviously a powerful response and a clear, direct response from Charlie Kirk. But I thought a couple of moments later, his broader point was even better on this issue.
Instead of that, what could you possibly do in your own personal life to improve your own state of being? If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems, that is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper online brain rot, you are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission that will not make you happier and not make you healthier. Instead, here's what your attitude should be. Your attitude should be like, I can't own stuff. I got it. Can't own a home. Not getting married. I don't know who to date. Said, wow, the challenges are immense. I'm going to now overcome all those challenges and go on an adventure. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm now not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. I'm going to dig deep. This is still a great country. This is a free country. I'm going to use my agency. I'm going to use my ability. And I'm not just going to go point in the corner and be like, I'm overweight because of the Jews. Women don't want to date me because of the Jews. How about this? As Jordan Peterson would say, sit up straight with your shoulders back, follow the rules for life, make yourself interesting, learn something new every single day, and instead of pointing at a small group of people and engaging in this brain rot, become a better person. You'll be a happier and healthier, more joyful and productive person of the country.
And now, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, after those comments a couple of weeks ago about people who are blaming the Jews for everything, you've got people like Candace Owens, who, used to be his friend and used to work together on the whole thing. You have her trying to tie in Charlie to this web of conspiracies around everything being the fault of the Jews. And God forbid, this being something that our federal government is involved with, which is what she alleged on her Instagram stories yesterday. And one of the grossest things I've seen from anybody, left or right, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. On the text line, 913-408-7957. Pete, Candace Owens and Jasmine Crockett should team up and have some kind of crazy crossfire podcast. I don't think I could handle it. I really don't. Part of my job is to watch a lot of crazy and react and play a lot of crazy so you don't have to do it. But I don't think I could take it. That's just a bridge too far for me. I suppose I could try to get Mark to do it on the side, but then Mark would be putting in for hazard pay, and I wouldn't want to do that to him, right, Mark? You're not going to take that.
That would be a tough one for me.
Yeah, I know. That would be a tough one for any of us. It's a heck of an idea, though, on the text line. I'll give you that much. Heck of an idea. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. It's great to have you here on the show, as always. It's 8:15. We'll have Steve Moore coming up at the bottom of the hour, and we are starting a $1,000 giveaway today. 5 chances to win every weekday, starting at 8:35. We have a text to win keyword here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So do not miss that. It is 20 minutes away on KCMO, and then we'll get to the latest on Jimmy Kimmel. He is off the air, and we'll get to the why, all coming up.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
821, good morning. It is great to have you here on KCMO. Let's squeeze in Bill in Raytown. He wanted to fit in a comments after the Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk conversation we were just having. What's up there, Bill?
Hey, I heard your comments about, what you felt about what Candace Owens was saying, and I kind of aligned with, the way you thought, at least I did, but I've also seen some other little clips of Charlie Kirk saying things like there's factions within the, within Israel that are funding some of these crazy things that we're fighting today on the, these left-wing policies or these protests that come out. And I just feel like maybe as Charlie Kirk would want, now as I learn more about him, he would probably like to see an open discussion about that and look a little deeper before dismissing her as completely nuts and crazy. But I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, but remember this too. Remember this too. I mean, Bill, when we talk about the Jews, and I have my air quotes when I say it, they're an ethnic group, right? There's Orthodox Jews, religious Jews. There are, secular Jews. They're not really this conglomerate of exclusive people because there's factions within that group. So we don't even really talk about it properly when we have the conversation because there's diversity within that group.
I agree. Again, that's why I would think maybe we need to know more about what she's talking about. And she could be going a little off the rails and kind of globbing it in all into one group. But you're right. Some of the clips I've seen are different. It's different, like you say, parts of Jews that are talking about some stuff going on there, and instead of just giving them 100% free pass. But I think the point of what kind of starts at is, as a whole, we're supporting Israel and we're supporting the Jews. I mean, we don't want them to be persecuted and the crazy stuff that goes on with them. But at the same time, there can also be other things going on that, maybe need to be corrected and spearheaded before it gets out of control. I don't know. I would just think you'd want to know a little bit more about what she's talking about. I think Tucker Carlson has also said some of those comments, which really just threw me off when I first heard it. Thought, man, that's insane. That just sounds crazy. Then you start seeing a little bit more evidence, and there might be something more, or maybe something there. I don't know.
Well,
I think she's pretty well spoken. Why would she would do that for just some attention? I don't know.
A lot of money. A lot of money.
That for attention. I don't think she needs that.
A lot of money, Bill.
Negative attention like that.
Bill, I'm talking. Bill, do you hear me? Bill, hello?
I'm sorry. I think I cut off.
Okay. Yeah. Money.
Yeah.
It's all about the money. Show me the money, baby. You like Jerry Maguire? Yeah. I love that movie. Show me the money. That's what it's all about, the money, brother. Okay?
So again, agreed. I would follow where all that money's coming and going from, and maybe that would tell a clearer picture.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good deal, Bill. Thanks for checking in. I do appreciate it. It's all about the moolah, man. Power, money, influence. That drives a lot of people, sadly, to do some bad things. It's really that simple. It's not much more complicated than that. And yeah, I mean, just because there's a lot of people who are really well-spoken, it doesn't mean I believe them when the facts don't back them up. You know who's really well-spoken? Barack Obama. He's mostly full of it. I mean, you can't tell me that someone's well-spoken, therefore they should be taken seriously. Actors can be well-spoken. Does that mean we take them seriously? No, and the final straw for me was Candace implying on her Instagram story, not even implying, but saying on her Instagram story yesterday that Charlie was basically killed in part by the government. That's just so irresponsible on so many levels. Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dahin Bongino, are you kidding me? That's just nuttery.
Candace said that on ABC. She would be suspended indefinitely.
Thank you for that, Mark, because now we can talk about Jimmy Kimmel, the real star of the day here, whose show is indefinitely suspended after broadcast outlets like Sinclair and Nexstar, they are owners of local television stations around the country. And they basically said, we're done with Jimmy Kimmel. So ABC had to put him on indefinite leave because ABC does not own a lot of the radio stations that Jimmy Kimmel appears on. They're owned by these local TV groups. Like, example, Nexstar owns Fox 4 here in Kansas City. But they also own ABC affiliates around the country, and they run Jimmy Kimmel. And if you own a television station in whether it's Kansas City, whether it's Dallas, whether it's Cleveland, Ohio, Cheyenne, Wyoming, I don't care where it is, Jimmy Kimmel ain't playing well in most of your markets, okay? If you're in LA, San Francisco, and New York, you might play okay. But the guy's getting killed everywhere else. And finally, these TV stations said enough after Jimmy Kimmel said this in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the...
Just disgusting. Factually inaccurate. Not even just the standard Jimmy Kimmel shtick. Just outwardly promoting propaganda and a flat-out lie. And finally, the owners of the television stations around the country, Sinclair and Nexstar, said, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. And the meltdowns that you saw last night on cable news were just unbelievable. Take a listen to what, this is just hysterical. Jamie Raskin's a member of Congress. And this guy's something else. Maryland, take a listen to what he said on MSNBC last night about Jimmy Kimmel.
Talk show hosts who are like modern Tom Paines.
Congressman Jamie Raskin, thank you so much.
Jimmy Kimmel's a modern Thomas Paine? That means Mark's Jimmy the Greek. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Mark, I love your bets, but you're not Jimmy the Greek.
Yeah,
fine. And Jimmy Kimmel is not Thomas Paine. Oh, my gosh. They are really going there, aren't they? The meltdowns have been amazing, and this is free speech and capitalism at work. It's not cancel culture. Steve Moore on the Fed cutting rates and more next on KCMO.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
There you go. First chance to win $5,000 every day on KCMO. Well, $1,000 5 times a day, the better way to put it. Bank to 95819, 8:30, 10:30, 12:30, 2:30, and 4:30 here on KCMO. That keyword is bank to 95819. We also have those Night at the Tower tickets coming up, and Ask Mundo Anything is 15 minutes away. But right now, our friend Steve Moore, Unleash Prosperity, former economic advisor to President Trump. He was just on Fox News here in the last few minutes. Steve, let's talk about the news yesterday. Rate cuts, quarter point coming from Jerome Powell. Good or bad?
Probably good. I do think Wall Street and Washington over-obsess about what the Fed is doing with these short-term rate reductions. It's not as if, Jerome Powell were the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain and he could just push a button and make the economy grow faster. I wish that were the case. Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if all you had to do to make an economy grow faster is just print more money? But of course, if that were the case, Zimbabwe would be the richest country in the world. And so I think that, but it was time for a rate cut. Trump has been agitating this for about 8 or 9 months. Jerome Powell doesn't like Trump, and Trump doesn't like Jerome Powell. They've got an adversarial relationship, and I do think that Powell has been trying to kind of stick his finger in the eye of Trump, and he has been too late. This will be a short-term stimulus to the economy, and so overall I think it's a good thing. But if we're going to cut anything in Washington, rather than cutting the interest rates, why not cut wasteful government spending? That would do a lot more for the economy.
Thank you so much, Steve Moore. You're just making too much sense because, we still have this inflation that's kind of sticky right now, Steve. I mean, the Fed wants it at 2%. We're at about 3%, which might not sound like a lot, but that's 50% higher than what they want it to be at. So they're playing with a little fire here. How much does this concern you that it could spark a little more inflation?
A little bit. I share your concern. By the way, I think the inflation rate is closer to, close to 2.5 than 3. I mean, we brought it down, but you're right. It's still above the Fed target of 2%. And so I am always attentive to the inflation rate because, remember, that's what destroyed the Biden presidency was the fact that we had a 21% rise in prices in 4 years. And by the way, Jerome Powell was the guy in head of the Fed at that time. I don't understand. One thing I do not like about Jerome Powell, and by the way, he'll be gone in hopefully less than 6 months, so we can move on to a new chapter. But if you listen to his speech yesterday, and I know it's boring. He's a boring guy, but I have to do that. That's what they pay me for, is to listen to what he's saying. And he was so negative about the economy. He was, we're only growing 1.5%, and this is stalling and that's stalling. We don't have enough job growth and so on. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Are there some problems with the economy? Sure. But we're certainly in much better shape than we were a year ago. My God. I mean, we've got much higher growth. The economy is now growing at 3.3%. We are producing record amounts of oil and gas. Gas prices are headed to lower than $3 a gallon. We are deregulating the economy. We passed the big, beautiful tax bill, which is really going to help with the big continuing investment boom. So I don't understand why if you listen to his speech, it was just depressing when, in fact, most of the news is good on the economy.
So with that being the case then, Steve Moore, you talk about cutting federal spending. It feels like the whole idea of DOGE has fallen by the wayside. Am I missing something, or are you concerned as well that DOGE, which is an amazing idea, desperately needed, kind of lost its luster?
No, I think my position isn't quite where yours is. I mean, I expected bigger thing from DOGE, no question about it. But look, when you attack the empire in Washington, the empire is going to fight back, and that's what has happened. We tried to cut 1% out of the budget. Remember the budget that we passed a few months ago. And I mean, if you looked at the newspapers, watch TV, oh my God, the world's going to come in. People are going to starve in the street if we cut 1% out of our budget. Our $7 trillion budget. So it's hard to cut spending, but to defend Elon Musk and DOGE and what they have done, we've cut the federal workforce by almost 300,000 people. That's a big reduction. That hasn't happened in a long time in Washington. As you know, the growth that we got under Joe Biden was almost all growth driven by government, not private business and private enterprise. So we're slowly draining the swamp. We have saved tens of billions of dollars. Now, I know in a $7 trillion budget, that's not a whole lot, but tens of billions of dollars still a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. Steve Moore is here, of course, former economic advisor to President Trump. He is with Unleash Prosperity, joining us on KCMO. All right, so then when you look forward here, Steve, we've got this continuing resolution bill. I guess they got to pass here in the next few weeks or so. What are your concerns around what they will do or won't do with that and how it could impact the economy?
Well, the big question related to that is, will there be another government shutdown? The Democrats in Washington desperately want a shutdown. They want a shutdown because, I've been in this business now for 35 years. I've probably lived through about 12 government shutdowns. And one thing I've noticed, whether it's a Democratic president or a Republican president, whether it's a Republican Congress or a Democratic Congress, have you noticed whenever we have a shutdown, it's always the Republicans' fault? Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah. Par for the course.
So, no matter who is in charge, it's always the Republicans are the ones who shut down the government. So, of course, that's what Democrats want. They are in a deep hole right now where the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, but we can't pass a budget because of the budget rules without some Democratic votes. And so they're going to try to shut down the government and then say, those Republicans, see how terrible they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see more cuts in the budget. Absolutely. We're running a $2 trillion deficit, folks. I mean, everyone knows that we cannot continue on that path. We got to grow the economy faster and get control of spending. Trump's doing the best he can, but it takes two to tango. And when you've got Democrats, even when we tried to just force work requirements for people getting on Medicaid, oh my God, people are going to die. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
People are going to die if we pass this budget. I mean, it's unbelievable. You mean if we spend only $7 trillion, not $7.1 trillion, the world's going to come to an end?
We're toast, Steve. That's it. That's game over. Last thing, I want to ask you about something. I got a minute here for you, Steve Moore, but I want to ask you about this data point you put out yesterday showing that in a country that some claim is a white supremacist nation, Asian Americans, I guess, have figured out how to crack the code because they make way more money than any other racial group. What is your read on that and how we should interpret it?
It's a great story. It's an amazing story. The economic climb of Asians in this country, they make more money than white people now. The average Asian household makes $120,000 a year, which is high salary, high income. The average white family makes about $90,000.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Hispanic incomes are growing as well. The big problem with our American economy, we have to figure out what to do about this, is Black Americans are not, Hispanics now make more than Blacks do, and most Hispanics have only been in the country for less than 30 years. So we have to figure out what is going on in the Black community that we're not seeing the kind of economic rise that we're seeing with other groups. And people say it's racism. Maybe there's some racism here, but I think we really have to investigate what's going on with the Black family. I'm going to say this. I think when you've got more than half of Black children growing up without a father in the home, that's a big problem.
Well, you know what else, too? The racial group that has the lowest percentage of single-parent households, Asian Americans. So
exactly,
there's a direct correlation.
Gotta have fathers matter.
Yeah, they do. Steve Moore, Unleash Prosperity. See him on Fox all the time. Great stuff, Steve. Thank you for being on KCMO.
Okay, Pete. Have a great weekend. Take care.
You as well. Steve Moore on 95.7 FM. Coming up, one of our new segments. We are calling it Ask Mundo Anything. Whatever question you've got for me, it doesn't matter. Segment's been a lot of fun the last few weeks. Anything you want to ask that's FCC compliant, you can do it. Next, 913-408-7957. Line up the phones. Also, we've got your chance right now to win Night at the Tower tickets. Saturday, September 27th. You can do that by texting the keyword experience to 913-408-7957. Experience to 913-408-7957 to win Night at the Tower tickets at the National World War I Museum and Memorial. But Ask Mundo Anything is coming up next.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
It is 8:50 on a Thursday. That means it's that time of the week. Let's do it.
It's time to ask Mundo anything on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
What do you mean?
All right, we'll get in as many of these as we can. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Jack in Harrisonville. Jack, you're first up. What's your question, my man?
I didn't get a chance to ask you this when you came back from New York. Whenever you go back, are there certain restaurants that you have to eat at that they don't have down there? Because I'm from L.A. When I go back to L.A., there are certain restaurants that I have to eat at that they don't have out here.
Great question, Jack. I always go for seafood, man. I mean, that's the one thing that I feel like we are obviously missing on the regular here in Kansas City. I mean, you can get it if you go out to a really nice place, but, just run-of-the-mill seafood, that's what I go to. But I'll tell you what, a place that I went that I had never been before in New York City was P.J. Clark's, and it's got a long history going back to the late 1800s. It survived Prohibition, a couple of world wars. It has a long history as just a classic New York City Irish pub. Has a lot of history there, too, like Frank Sinatra used to hang out there, Marilyn Monroe. I think Buddy Holly proposed to his fiancée there. So it's just got a great history to it, and it has that old Irish pub New York City feel, and it was darn good. So, I definitely try to do that there, Jack. That's a good question, my man.
It's just got a great...
There you go. Let's go to Libby in Waldo. Libby, what's your question? Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Pete. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to assume that you, are the program director and that you are the one that's responsible for hiring and firing. Is that correct?
That is correct, but of course, Mark is the muscle man. So you got to get through Mark first.
Okay. Here's the reason I'm asking. I thought this morning how interesting that the three names that we hear, Peter, John, and Mark, are all biblical names. Was that part of the hiring, for example?
No, I did not require a biblical name to be hired at KCMO. That was not part of the requirement.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. No, it's a good question.
If you want to hire my brother, his name's Paul. So he's been in radio before. If you need one more apostle, bring him on in.
I think John spells his name wrong anyway. John's Jon.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
true.
technically screwed that one up if I was hiring just based on the apostles. So, no, it's not a requirement, Libby.
I know a Luke.
Yeah.
We can get in here.
Keep them coming. Good question, though. Someone's commented on that before in the last few years, saying you got a Peter, you got a Mark, you got a John. Where's Luke? Where are the rest of the boys at? All right, let's go to Mike and Shawnee. What's your question, Mike? Go ahead, my man.
Well, Pete, I want to know, do you play fantasy football? If you do, what's the name of your team, the starting lineup? And if you don't, why the heck not?
All right, good question there, Mike. I am not a fantasy football guy. Here's why. I can't do it well enough to win. I don't have the time, or at least I don't feel like I have the time, to do it well enough to win. I could draft a team. I think I would draft a pretty good team. I'm a football fan. But I'm more of a watch college football guy and then watch the Chiefs on Sunday. I don't spend a lot of time just watching random NFL games, locked in on the Chiefs. But as a sport, I like college football better. But if I'm going to win fantasy football, or if I'm going to play fantasy football, I want to win my fantasy football. And I know that I'm not going to be the guy that's, on the waiver wires and proposing trades and making sure that, my bench is playing when it needs to be playing. I'm just not going to do that. So if I'm not going to do it to the best of my abilities, I'm not going to play it. And I haven't played fantasy football in probably 10 years at this point.
And as a guy who plays fantasy football, I appreciate you being the guy that doesn't play, because I have a guy in one of my leagues who never updates his lineup. So it's like, that guy needs to stay out.
That would be me. It'd be like 12:05 on a Sunday. Oh, I should update my line. Oh, it's too late.
Too late.
Yeah, I've got 3 wide receivers all in bye weeks. So that's why I don't do it. because if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. I want to win. And I just, I guess I'm choosing to not have the time to basically do it at the best of my ability. Let's go to 913-408-7957 is our text line. You can't really text in. You got to call in for the Ask Mundo Anything segment. Let's go to John in Gardner. John, what's your question, my man?
Hey, Pete, good morning. It's John, by the way, just saying. So kind of a two-parter. Favorite talk show broadcaster, one living, one passed away. Who would be your two favorites? One living, one dead.
So one's got to be dead, can't be retired.
I'm going to say one living, one dead. I would say Bongino and Rush, but, Bongino's not really on anymore, so I just kind of, defeated the question there. But
all right, I'll answer that one, John. That's a good question. All right, one living broadcaster and one dead. Living, I will give you Colin Cowherd. And let me explain why. Colin Cowherd, to me, was someone when he came up through the sports side of things, especially when he blew up with ESPN, was not a carnival barker, was a unique thinker, was someone who had great analogies, had more depth to his presentation than most sports talk radio guys did at the time when he came up through the ranks 15, 20 years ago now at this point. And there's an entire culture of sports talk guys who try to be Colin Cowherd. And frankly, I think Colin Cowherd's model can be better applied to news talk and our space as well. In some ways more so than what he does on the sports side of things. So I've been watching and following him for probably 15 to 20 years at this point. And when I first got into the business, he was, I would say, at his peak with ESPN. And that changed the landscape of sports talk radio. And I've tried to apply some of his principles to the news talk side of things. So I would say Colin Cowherd for a guy that's alive and doing it now. And then for someone who's dead, I mean, it might be a cliche answer, but I've got to go Rush just because he was, to me, the best to ever do it. And I wasn't one of these guys that grew up listening to Rush. I didn't. But when I was in Oklahoma doing broadcasting there in my first full-time job, I spent the summer of 2011 covering a murder trial in Mangum, Oklahoma, which is a town of 2,000 people in southwest Oklahoma. And if there's ever a place that great people, but I would never want to go back to, it's Mangum, Oklahoma. That southwest part of that state is just brutal. It's like 115 degrees every day. The wind's blowing a million miles an hour. And I get a lunch break while covering this trial. And they didn't have any food there outside of like a Subway. So I'd go to a Subway at like noon Central Time and listen to Rush because there also weren't many radio options. And that got me more interested in exploring the news talk side of the business over the sports talk side of the business. And I give Rush a lot of credit for that. But I was not like one of these guys that grew up on him and always listened to him. It was kind of later, I guess, early 20s, mid-20s, when I started to listen to him and say, boy, he's fantastic. And he was so much more joyful than he gets credit for. There you go. Ask Mundo anything in the books. Good questions this week. We'll do it again next week, same time, here on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up next, oh, man, I got to get on him. I have no choice. Got to get on this guy coming up on KCMO. I didn't want to have to talk about this guy, to be totally honest, but I feel like I have no choice after what I heard yesterday from him. And I know some of you are not going to be happy about it. I get it. But it's got to be brought up because he is so slick and he is so sneaky in what he is doing. And that is none other than former President Barack Obama, who, if you didn't hear what he had to say yesterday in video that went viral on social media and elsewhere about the Charlie Kirk assassination, you got to see it and you got to hear it for yourself. And I know some of you are going to be like, I know what's coming. No, let's just listen to this together as Barack Obama very smoothly does what Barack Obama does. And that is create great division in a very academic manner, in a very eloquent way that makes him sound like he's not nearly as offensive as he is. But when you see and hear what he's actually doing, it's just as divisive as almost anything else out there. He just does it in a way that's basically the opposite of Trump. Trump's like, bull in a china shop, right? Straight shooter, plain speaker, and he's just going to say it. Obama does this like he's an academic, like he's a professor at Harvard, the way he lays this stuff out. But it's even more divisive in what he's actually saying. You just have to listen to how he's saying it.
Obviously, I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I was generally aware of some of his ideas. I think those ideas were wrong. But that doesn't negate the fact that what happened was a tragedy and that I mourn for him and his family. He's a young man with 2 small children and a wife who obviously, and a huge number of friends and supporters who cared about him. And so we have to extend grace to people during their period of mourning and shock.
Okay. But he's not done there. Because of course not. This is actually a 9-minute answer from Barack Obama. And don't worry, I will not torture you with a 9-minute answer. But he can't just say that. He can't just end it there, right? He says the pretty words. He says what he knows he has to say. And then he gets into his whole deal about, yes, I feel bad for Charlie. I'll take a minute on that. And now let me spend 8 minutes telling you why Charlie Kirk was a terrible person. And I'm not going to play all of that. But you got to understand, like, Obama knew going into this conversation he was going to be asked about it. Obama does not say anything without carefully crafting and thinking about it. He's a politician after all, right? But this is exactly what he did at this conversation, which was at the Jefferson Educational Society Summit, is where these comments were made. He knows exactly what he's doing and how he's portraying this. He's like, all right, let me say the niceties about Charlie Kirk, young man, family, kids, blah, blah, blah. Very sad. I didn't agree with him. And now let me tell you what I really think. And here we go.
We can also, at the same time, say that I disagree with the idea that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. That's not me politicizing the issue. It's making an observation about who are we as a country. I can say that I disagree with the suggestion that my wife or Justice Jackson does not have adequate brain processing power. I can.
So now think about what he's doing, right? He's read some of the, as he perceives them, highlights of the worst things Charlie Kirk has said, and he's laying them out. and he's going down this road of, boy, it's really sad this guy was killed, but let me tell you all the crazy things I think he said and how wrong they all are. He's not just saying, boy, this is a tragedy. He had different opinions than me. It's really sad for him and his family, but we got to come together. That's not what Obama's doing. He's now, in his own mind, bringing what he perceives to be as the receipts. So that was the ultimate goal here in this 9-minute answer from Barack Obama. And whether you agree or disagree with what Charlie Kirk said on any of those things, you know, his views on them were more complex than just the little line that Obama's sharing. When he was talking about the Civil Rights Act, he was claiming that it led to this permanent DEI-type bureaucracy. Whether you agree with that or not, it's a little more complex than just saying, he thought the Civil Rights Act was bad. Okay, I could play a dozen clips, and maybe I will to end the show, of Charlie Kirk talking about how race should be inconsequential to how you are viewed as an American. And I have another clip that I was watching last night where Charlie Kirk slaps down some guy at one of his rallies who says America needs to be more white. I've got the audio of him slapping down some guy at one of his events who is claiming America needs to be more white. And when it comes to, you know, what he said about Barack Obama's wife and some of those comments that are out there as well, that was in the context of Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson Lee, Ketanji Brown Jackson admitting that they were affirmative action picks. They've all admitted that. So if you're admitting that you're an affirmative action pick, then it means that you were partially admitted to whatever it was, college or otherwise, because of race, right? That's what you're admitting when you're saying that you were an affirmative action pick. And Joy Reid is on the record, as are others, by saying they were affirmative action picks. Once again, agree or disagree, but what Obama is doing there is sowing division. He's not doing any unification. Even if you disagree with Charlie Kirk on those things, and you have every right to do that, Obama's answer here is not actually about any kind of unification. It's not actually about bringing people together. It's not actually about turning down the temperature. He's turning up the temperature. When you have a political assassination that has divided the country, if you truly want to bring it down, you do not then start talking about and going off on all the things that you disagreed with that person on. And then starting to make the case, and I could play more of it, but I think you're all done with that audio clip. You don't then start making the 7-8 minute case as to why this person was terrible. But it's sad they're dead. That's not what leaders who are trying to unify do. And don't get me wrong, Trump can do a better job at this too. Okay? But for all the people who say, oh boy, Trump's not a unifier, he's a divider, he learned it from this guy. The difference is Obama approaches it like a college professor. And Trump, he approaches it like a union worker showing up with his lunch pail. That's the difference. Let's go to Wes in Gladstone. Wes, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
And I'd rather hang out with the union guy than the college professor.
That makes two of us, and I think most people in the audience, brother.
Yeah, so I ran across this story on Breitbart yesterday about this, okay? And part of his 23-minute speech that he gave, he started to defend his mass migration experiment, okay? And during that talk, he said about the mass migration, I think George W. Bush believed that. I know John McCain believed in it. I know Mitt Romney believed in it. There's our problem right there, man. And, in that these rhinos were all for it. But that was interesting. But like you said, he wasn't the commander in chief. He was the chef in chief because he kept turning up the temperature, just like you said. His legacy should be hands up, don't shoot. he could have slapped that down and done so much for this country.
You know what his legacy is the destruction of race relations and Donald Trump.
And
that's sorry there, Wes. But that's the legacy for Barack Obama. I talked about this at Rockhurst last week. The Gallup polling shows, and I got civility belled on this and I got fact-checked on this, but I was right. Race relations per Gallup polling peaked in Obama's first term. People thought maybe we're finally in a post-racial America. And it went all downhill starting in his second term. And it's been going sadly, it's been going downhill since. And the other thing to me, Donald Trump's never president, and frankly, never taken seriously as a presidential figure, if not for Barack Obama. If Obama, to me, was not as divisive as he was, Trump's never taken seriously. But for many people, they were sick of being called names, they were sick of the division, and they said, let's get our guy. Who's our guy? Who's really going to stick it to these people? We tried the nice guy stuff with Romney, and look what Obama did to him. They called him a racist. The binder's full of women stuff, right? Biden did the same thing. We tried to play, Mr. Nice Guy, George W., McCain, Romney, and look what you did to them. Well, you know what? Let's go with a guy who's not so nice and see how that works out. So those, to me, are two of the biggest parts of Obama's legacy, and no one will probably ever write about that when it comes to Obama's legacy, but they should. Because to me, Trump's never a serious political figure without Obama. And also, the sad decline of race relations in America tied directly back, per Gallup polling, to his second term. And that's partially Michael Brown in St. Louis, I believe, and also, as Wes alluded to there, Trayvon Martin. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, we'll get to our caller of the day here on 95.7 FM. We are always streaming, of course, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We have some issues in Kansas City that apparently are set to be solved. But are you buying it? We'll share those details coming up on KCMO.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, Britt Hume, chief political analyst at Fox News, will join us to try to help us make sense of the world. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
It's 9:24, and if you are planning to go to downtown Kansas City this weekend, maybe you got a concert happening, you got a dinner planned, a night out, whatever it might be, you should be better off than you've been over the last couple of weeks, because Kansas City is moving police patrol to Power and Light and other entertainment districts in the wake of the August 24th homicide that took place in a parking lot at 3 a.m., and they also are getting some buy-in from some of the companies that own the parking lots around Power and Light, notably the one at 12th and Grand. So this was covered in a press release yesterday, and here's part of the story from KCTV5.
In response, KCPD is increasing foot patrols and adding off-duty security. Copagan says they're adding more lights, cameras, and signs, as well as plans to install a gate around the lot.
Definitely glad to hear they're making strides to make it safer. I think it'll improve the community and safety as a whole.
While everyone is on board with these efforts, some say it's also an effort the people need to bring, not just the parking lot.
The people needs to be changed first. Before anything, the people has to stop.
I wish that crime and violence could go away, but there are a lot of reasons why things like this happen, and I think we all need to work together to figure out what those reasons are, and we can try to solve what we can.
God bless them. But they make it so much more complicated than it needs to be. You have a heavy police presence. You deter crime. And when crime does happen, you take the people who commit crime and you make sure you throw the book at them. That means strong DAs and prosecutors and judges who do not slap people on the wrist, who actually take the law seriously, do not turn criminals into victims, let them back out on the streets. That's all it takes. And I mean this with all due respect to my friends who work in law enforcement. This is not rocket science. But when they do these man-on-the-street interviews for local news, it's like, boy, I hope we can get this thing figured out. Oh, boy, the people got to get themselves under control. Yeah, they do. But it's not difficult in terms of what you have to do with the people who just don't want to abide by the law. It's not a hard concept to understand. So this morning, Quinton Lucas was on KCMO, and he did admit that, listen, we're moving cops into the entertainment districts. But guess what? That means they're coming from somewhere else. It's a zero-sum game. That means they're coming away from the east side. They're coming out of the Northland because they're down 400 cops as is. But he knows, and he's right to point out, at 3 a.m. when the bars are getting out, guess what? Having a strong police presence around Power and Light and Westport is what you have to do. Now, there might be some people barking about, well, is that, a racial thing? And that's come up in the past in this town. If you have a ton of cops at Power and Light, nobody on the east side, it's like, well, it's just about the white people downtown. I don't think that's fair. But trust me, that argument will come. And I think it's why, for so long, they didn't have proper patrol around places like Power and Light. But when it's the place in town or one of the places in town that gets the most attention and has the highest density of people who are drinking late at night, you can't worry about some people playing the race card. You have to just send the cops to where they're needed. And that's why this ultimately is the right move. Our caller of the day is coming up, and we'll give you an update on what the President of the United States just said overseas next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Well, our caller of the day was tied into the story of the morning, and that is Jimmy Kimmel being put on indefinite leave by ABC in news that broke late last night. Now, to be clear, this is not really, the ABC News and Disney made the decision, but the pressure really came from the local operators, companies like Nexstar and Sinclair. They own these local TV stations around the country, and they're the ones who said, we're done with Kimmel. What Jimmy Kimmel said in the last couple of days about Charlie Kirk is not only gross and out of touch, it's also just a flat-out lie.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing...
No. What? The fact that they waited 5 days to say that, Jimmy Kimmel and his staff, goes to show you they didn't care one bit about the truth. They didn't care about the facts. Jimmy Kimmel saying that it was conservatives who wouldn't admit that this alleged assassin was one of their own? Where could you even possibly get that information? Yeah, his dad, as we've learned, was a Trump supporter, but he's a 22-year-old grown man who we know was, unfortunately, propagandized by left-wing ideology. That's what we know.
But we're all part of the board.
I know, right? It's unbelievable. So it was Sinclair who put out a statement yesterday, the nation's largest ABC affiliate group, objecting to recent comments made by Jimmy Kimmel. So what is Sinclair going to do this weekend? They will air a special remembrance of Charlie Kirk this Friday during Jimmy Kimmel's live time slot. The special will also air across all Sinclair stations this weekend. In addition, Sinclair is offering the special to all ABC affiliates across the country. So technically, Channel 9 could run this. Even though KMBC is not owned by Sinclair, they're owned by the Hearst Company. According to Sinclair, any ABC affiliate can air this, even if they're not a Sinclair station owned by NBC or ABC. Or an ABC station owned by Sinclair is the right way to put it. So we'll see. I'll reach out to Channel 9 today and see if they're going to air this Charlie Kirk special. Once again, they're not owned by Sinclair. They're a Hearst-owned station, but they could do it based on what Sinclair is saying. Sinclair calls upon Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to the Kirk family. We ask Mr. Kimmel take a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. I don't know what's going to happen here. Honestly, I don't know if it should really matter. How sincere is that even going to be? CNN had a report here that said Kimmel and his staff are shocked and livid. And CNN's analysis is that Jimmy Kimmel's suspension comes from a strongman's playbook. They write Trump's anti-media blitz that led to Kimmel's suspension is straight from a European strongman's playbook. My goodness, these people are gross. Now, this was a private company deciding that we don't want to air Jimmy Kimmel's lies anymore. And they have every right to do that in America. So now what they're saying is actually the opposite of what's going on here. Jimmy Kimmel may end up losing his job because Jimmy Kimmel said things that people who carry his show don't think is appropriate and don't want to hear on their television stations anymore. And by the way, doesn't work for their audience. If you own a television station, an ABC affiliate in Dallas or Kansas City or Cheyenne or Louisville, you really think Jimmy Kimmel's shtick plays well? So maybe they were waiting for something like this. And if they did, good on them. They're allowed to cancel Jimmy Kimmel. It's not cancel culture, what's going on here. It's a company making a business decision. And this was their final straw. And this led to our caller of the day on KCMO.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day. on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on FM at 95.7.
Let's go to Victor in Parkville. What's up, Victor?
Hey, the thing is, what is this truth to power thing? The government had nothing to do with it. And as far as it's a free speech issue, yes, absolutely 100% correct. The network has the right to direct what kind of free speech is on its network. And they prefer not to have lies on their network. If you don't like it, any of you newscaster guys, then quit. Go sell ice cream on the corner. I don't care. If you don't like what the network's doing, you have every right to tender your resignation and depart the industry. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Victor in Parkville. Well done there, Victor, on KCMO. There you go.
This is one of those things where I hate it when they do a boycott, and I was already participating, right? Because they would say, like on watching Channel 9, tonight on Jimmy Kimmel, blah, blah, and I would say out loud, not at my house, if my wife started to do it. In this day and age of smart speakers, we don't look quite so deranged, but it was a game. Coming up tonight, not at my house.
That's great, John. And let's not forget all the people screaming about, cancel culture this, as if somehow this is cancel culture. They didn't care one bit about, like, Roseanne Barr, Gianna Carano. Remember Dave Chappelle? They tried to cancel him after he did a comedy special, what they called transphobic comedy special. Tried to get Joe Rogan off of Spotify. J.K. Rowling is someone that they've targeted because she doesn't believe that men should play in women's sports. The list goes on. There are two sets of rules as far as they're concerned. And accountability with them only ever goes one way. So when I hear people like, Jeffrey Toobin on CNN, Mr. Five Finger Shuffle there at CNN, Jeffrey Toobin, who got thrown off of CNN because he was caught on a Zoom call pleasuring himself. Somehow he got back on CNN. Mark likes that, the Five Finger Shuffle, don't you, Mark?
That was a good one.
When he's coming out and saying this, I'm like, really, bro? You of all people?
Of all things to be offended by, I've heard a lot more offensive things said in the aftermath of this terrible, awful event than that. And it just shows they are looking for reasons to get Jimmy Kimmel, and they manufactured one out of something that is, hardly a dramatic departure from what lots of people are saying.
Okay, Jeffrey Toobin. Let's get you back to cuffing the carrot there, okay?
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
You guys.
Oh, man.
Mine are all probably 70 sound.
Yeah.
So they're all pretty good, though.
Mark's
mine more alliteration with 2 words. But.
Oh,
back
boy.
to your 5-on-1 over there.
Let's get Jeffrey Toobin back to the only thing he's apparently good at, okay? But Jen Psaki was no different last night on MSNBC.
The news about Jimmy Kimmel, I think, is a pretty watershed moment. I think we all need to be talking about. We actually, and it's not just a media story. I know you agree with me on this. It's not just a media story. It's a democracy story. It's a freedom of speech story. It's so many things. And I've been thinking a lot today about how I lived through years of answering questions from a lot of these network journalists, people who ask tough questions. Sometimes I was pissed off at them. That's part of what we do. And this is threatening that.
Oh, this is threatening what we do.
Oh, she took so much abuse.
What, lying? This is threatening what we do. Lying when you say this?
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points.
That is a lie. It's a dangerous lie. It's a lie that Jimmy Kimmel's got to know better than to share and say. And if people that carry a show say we're done with him, then that's it. If my show was syndicated and station owners around the country didn't want to carry me anymore, they have every right to do that because of something I said. Every right to do that. That's what's happening here. It is a free market decision by a corporation saying we're done with this guy. That's it.
Circle back to us on that, Jen.
Yeah. Circle back, Psaki.
Right. Answering questions. She was too busy circling back.
Oh, that's great. We'll wrap up the show with something that happened to me that I do want to get your input on and get your feedback on before we get to Keatsman Uncanceled at 10 o'clock.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
wrapping up the show with something that happened to me yesterday that I do want to get your feedback on here on KCMO. Keith's been uncanceled is 15 minutes away. So I had a young man who's mowed the lawn for me a couple of times this summer, helped me out yesterday. Well, he didn't help me out. I hired him for something. I mow my own lawn, but I needed someone to really get a low mow ahead of an aeration I was doing this week. I can tell I'm becoming an old man because I really care about my lawn a lot. I've got a passion for it. And I always say to my girls.
Back to the land, I like to say, out working the acres.
I always say to my girls, if you want to get in Dad's good graces, just tell him the lawn looks great after he mows it. All right? So it's very simple to get in my good graces, girls. That's all I ask for. So normally I mow my own lawn, but I had to get it real low. Obviously, got to bag all the clippings ahead of this aeration, and I just haven't had time. Was out of town. You know, it takes a lot being a first and second grade girls soccer coach. Got a lot of game prep to do and practice to prep for. So it's just been a busy couple of weeks. So I hired this young man who's, once again, he's mowed the lawn a couple of times for me when we've been out of town. And I said, hey, could you come by this week, yesterday, Wednesday, and just give me a low mow? Could you bag it for me and just take care of it? And he said, sure, it's going to cost you a little more than a standard mow. I said, that's fine. Totally cool. All good. So I texted him yesterday just to follow up. Hey, get it down to 1.5, 2 inches for me. Bag it if you could, and, I'll pay you afterwards. He said, sounds good. So he shows up yesterday before I'm set to go to the soccer practice, and he's got his ride-on mower, and he's not bagging anything. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So he says, a mouse got into some piece of my equipment, and I can't bag it, but I'm going to go over it multiple times, and I'm going to go over the clippings, and we'll take care of you. I said, okay. And he said the price was going to be the same because he was going to go back and forth over it multiple times instead of bagging it to make sure there's not a lot of clippings all over the grass. I was like, all right, whatever. So I get home, he's done, and the backyard has clippings, all over the place, all up against the fence line, no edging, no nothing's done. So my immediate reaction is I get annoyed. And, I call him up. Now, he's, I think, a senior in high school, 18, whatever he is. And I leave him a voicemail. I wasn't mad, but I said, listen, you got to give me a call. Job's not done. None of the edging was taken care of. There's clippings all over the back of the fence. You got to call me back, and we got to get this figured out. A few hours passed. He didn't call me. And I calmed down a little bit. Kate's like, all right, high school kid, 18 years old, whatever he is, just work with him here. I said, that's great advice. Especially given the news of the last week, you got to realize what actually matters. So I sent him a text last night, and I just said, hey, fill in the blank name. I know you're a hardworking guy, and I'll take care of you, but I was disappointed in all the clippings up against the fence in the back with no edging done anywhere either. I said, if you weren't going to be able to bag it, I understand that equipment breaks, but that's what I had originally hired you to do, as we discussed. You just need to let me know. Even this afternoon, I sent you a reminder about please bagging it, and you told me sounds good. I wrote here, if nothing else, I'd like this to be a learning lesson on your end, too. I firmly believe as you grow your business, you do need to make sure you're clear with your customers on some of these things and not be evasive. I said, thank you, and I'll pay you here shortly. So I paid him. I realized in the end the extra whatever it was monetarily wasn't going to make any difference in my life. And I thought for him, if I could share a learning moment for him as he maybe grows this lawn care business, it's one that'll serve him well. And he's better off screwing up with me, who's trying to help him, in the end, and we'll pay him in full. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I'm paying you half, or I'm not paying you, or you're going to, get over here and you're going to finish the job. Just like, dude, you got to do better. And I'm pleased with how I handled it. Now I got to go do it myself later today. He did offer to come do the edging, but, he's got school, he's got football, and I got to have it done before the aeration comes tomorrow morning. So I just said, don't worry about it. I appreciate the offer, but I'll just fix it myself. But I felt good about myself, hoping that for this young man, it is a learning experience. because we all need those at different points in our lives. Maybe it won't be. Maybe he'll screw up, and maybe he said, boy, screw this guy. Maybe that's what he said to himself.
Guy doing hard time in Leavenworth, sitting there in reflecting inward. Boom.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's saying to himself. I have no idea. I can't control that. What I can do is feel good about my response, and I do. And now I'm sharing it with you because I just want to feel better about myself. That's
you
it.
Could get a goat.
Yeah.
That's the green solution.
Yes. On the text line, Pete, you should have saved it for your tirade Tuesday. No. First off, tirade Tuesday is you, and this is not a tirade. I'm not. For a moment, I was annoyed. Long day, coming home from a soccer practice, the whole thing. But when I did take a step back, and Kate helped me with that, I was like, you know what? This is not a big deal. This is the ultimate first world problem. I'll do it myself. I'll finish it myself. And if I teach this young man a lesson that helps him at some point in his life, I feel good about it, John.
Better that he learn it from you
yes.
than from me.
Yes.
If you pull us at my news guy's house.
Yes. You're right about that.
I don't know how good he's got it.
Yeah. On the text line, Pete, this is nothing. I fired 2 of my nephews for bad lawn mowing. That's great. That's great.
No nepotism there.
Oh, and with that, we're back tomorrow at 6 a.m. on KCMO. Stream us on the app, your Alexa, your next chance at $1,000. Text to win keyword at 1035 on KCMO.